Thank you. Before I formally start the meeting, I confirm that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearing Regulations 2005, which allow councils to make their own arrangements for licensing subcommittees to hear matters in connection with premises licenses. I will begin by introducing the subcommittee members and officers who will be present throughout the meeting. I'm the Chair, Councillor Polly Andrews. To my left is Councillor Dave Davis and Councillor Richard Thomas, who are joining me. The legal advisor to my right is Mr. Ben Davis. The clerk to the committee, you've already spoken to, is Mr. Evans, and technical support is Donna Thornton. Other attendees will be reduced at relevant stages of the meeting. Please note the following points with regard to the conduct of this meeting. The Council is video and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making a recording which will be available on the Council's website. Please ensure that all mobile devices are switched to silent. If any remote attendee loses connection, the meeting will be paused to ascertain if the connection can be restored quickly. If it is not possible to recover the connection within a reasonable amount of time, the meeting will continue. If you plan to leave before the end of the meeting, please can you indicate this in advance. Are there any questions about the procedures before we continue? No? All right, thank you. Thank you. I will now proceed with the formal agenda of the meeting. We apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
Apologies for absence received from Councillor Bruce Baker.
Substitutes?
Councillor Richard Thomas is acting as a substitute for Councillor Baker.
Thank you for stepping in, Councillor Thomas. Are there any interests to be declared for items on the agenda today? Councillor Thomas?
The applicants of the licence are known to me, but I have no financial or any other connection with them.
Thank you. The application is for variation of a premises licence in respect of the Crown Inn, Lee, Ross-on-Wye, Herefordshire, HR 9 7JZ Licensing Act 2003. And the purpose is to consider an application for a variation of premises licence in respect of the Crown Inn, Ross-on-Wye, under the Licensing Act 2003. The order of the speakers. In attendance for this application, we have in the room, on behalf of the Licensing Authority, Emma Bowell, and for public representations, Mr. Robert Banner, for the applicant, Claire Cunningham, Ben Savage, and Tom Howarth. The order of speakers will be Ms. Emma Bowell on behalf of the Licensing Authority, Mr. Robert Banner as a public representative, Claire Cunningham on behalf of the applicant, Ben Savage on behalf of the applicant, and Tom Howarth on behalf of the applicant. There will then be questions from the subcommittee, and then we will adjourn to make our decision and come back later. Pardon? Emma.
Thank you, Chair. So the
Yes.
recommendations to the subcommittee are to determine the application with a view to promote the licensing objectives in the overall interests of the local community. They should give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote those licensing objectives, representations including any supporting information presented by all parties, the guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and the Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025. And the reasons for those recommendations: it ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. There are a number of options open to the subcommittee today. One, to grant the licence subject to conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule. Grant the licence subject to modified conditions to that of the operating schedule. To exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates to, or refuse the application. The application for variation of a premises licence has received relevant representations and is therefore brought before the subcommittee for determination. Herefordshire Council's Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025 states all representations must be relevant. For example, they must be about the likely effect of the grant of the application. And this is followed paragraph 8.57 in the 182 guidance, which uses the same wording. The applicant is Rose Savage and Mark Savage. There is no agent. The application was a variation received on the 17th of January 2025, and the 28-day consultation started the next day on the 18th and finished on the 15th of February 25, which is 28 days later. The application found at Appendix 1 requests the variation of a premise licence to allow the following licensable activities during the hours shown: sale and supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises, Sunday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until 11 p.m, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. until 1 a.m, New Year's Eve, 10 a.m. until 2 a.m. There's also a revised layout of the pub and gardens, which includes the addition of an outside bar and areas for the consumption of alcohol. There are no other changes to the licensable activities. The committee should be aware that it was noted that the newspaper advertisement did not include the full details of the variation, and the reference to the outside bar area was omitted from the notices. Therefore, this part of the application was withdrawn by the applicant, so you're only considering the consumption in the outside area, which is not a licensable activity. A copy of the current licence is attached to Appendix 2 and authorises the sale and supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises on weekdays other than Christmas Day, Good Friday or New Year's Eve, 10 a.m. until 11 p.m, on Sundays other than Christmas Day or New Year's Eve, 12 noon until 10:30 p.m, Good Friday, 12 noon to 10:30 p.m, Christmas Day, 12 noon to 3 p.m, and 7 till 10:30 p.m, and on New Year's Eve from the end of permitted hours on New Year's Eve to the start of permitted hours on the following day. 2 representations were received from the responsible authorities, Trading Standards and the Licensing Authority acting as the responsible authority. The conditions requested have been agreed by the applicant and can be found at Appendix 3. The conditions agreed include the requirement of CCTV, an incident log, staff training, no admission to new customers after 11:30 in the evening, Challenge 25, a refusals register, signage requesting customers to leave quietly, speakers within the premises shall be directed away from any residential property, no loudspeakers in the external area after 2300 hours, and a curfew on when the outside areas can be used. 7 relevant representations were received from members of the public that the Licensing Authority accepted as being relevant, and these can be found at Appendix 4. The representations are in relation to noise nuisance at the premises, increased traffic issues and a mention of wildlife. But please note that the licensing subcommittee cannot consider increased traffic or wildlife issues in determining this application in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003. The premises has been licensed since 2006. Since 2006, the Licensing Authority has received 3 transfer applications, the latest one being on the 30th of October 23, as shown at Appendix 2. The Licensing Authority has received 3 applications to vary the Designated Premises Supervisor, also known as a DPS, first being licensed in 2006. The premise licence currently does not have a DPS, therefore no sale of alcohol can take place until there is a DPS who holds a valid personal licence is in place, an application approved by the Licensing Authority and no objection received from West Mercia Police. Any decision today may have an impact on the local community. There are environmental impacts, equality duties and legal implications set out in this report that your legal advisor can advise you on further. There are unlikely to be any financial implications for the Council as a licensing authority at this time. There is a right of appeal to Magistrates Court within 21 days of the decision being served on the applicant. And there is little risk associated with the decision at this time due to the appeal to the Magistrates Court within that 21-day appeal. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire were consulted. Appendices 1 to 4 were found at the back of this report, and also a supplement was served after the report had been published. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Banner, it's your turn to speak now.
Thank you, Chair. May I at first say that I'm speaking as a private individual, but I'm also a councillor on Lee Parish Council, and that Lee Parish Council voted unanimously at a recent meeting to oppose this application as it is currently drafted. While we are all very impressed with the very considerable investment that the Savages have made in the pub, and believe that it will go a very long way towards rejuvenating the centre of the village, and while we appreciate the steps that have been made or have been taken to minimise disturbance to local residents, the fact remains that we are faced with an application which will permit the opening of a public house in the centre of a rural village, a public house surrounded by residential properties, an application that will permit this pub to open until 1 o'clock in the morning on 2 days of the week. Now, that has very, very considerable potential, I would suggest, to cause disturbance to local residents. Now, I understand that considerable steps have been made to mute the noise from the pub, but this will do nothing in terms of the disturbance and noise caused by individuals entering and leaving the premises at 1 o'clock in the morning on 2 days of the week. And I think this is potentially very damaging to the right that local residents have to the peaceful and quiet enjoyment of their property in the wee small hours of the morning. I have visited the premises actually at the invitation of Tom, who is managing the premises. I went there in the company of Lee Parish Council's chairman, Mr. Brian Jones. We were very impressed with what we saw. However, we were not satisfied, either of us, with our questions as to why on earth it is necessary to open premises, open a pub in a rural village, I would emphasize, surrounded by local residents until 1 o'clock in the morning. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a village. We are not talking about the centre of Cheltenham or Gloucester. I don't think that this is acceptable, and I would urge the committee to take a look at this application purely with that thought in mind. 1 o'clock in the morning, rural village, surrounding residents. I really do not think that that is in any way acceptable, and I've yet to receive any kind of a satisfactory explanation from the applicant as to why it is acceptable to serve alcoholic drink up until that time. And incidentally, I have spoken to the gentleman who is managing it, and he has set out the policies that he wishes to pursue, and I understand and respect those policies. However, he will not be there forever, I suspect, and if the license is granted, then it will be open to whoever takes over the running of the pub, and the licensee themselves to open until 1 o'clock in the morning and serve alcoholic drink. And I'm sorry, we can't accept that.
Thank you, Mr. Banner.
Incidentally, Madam Chair, it is Stephen Banner, not Robert Banner.
I'm so sorry about that. I've been misinformed. My apologies. Right. Thank you, Mr. Banner. Committee, have you any questions you would like to ask Mr. Banner?
No.
No? No. Thank you. We'll move on then to the next speaker, Claire Cunningham, on behalf of the applicant.
The only thing I would like to add at this point is that Tom Haworth, who has been noted by Steve, is indeed our pub manager. He has recently been granted a personal licence by the council and will become our DPS for the premises once this application has been sorted. Thank you very much.
So can I just clarify, you now have a DPS in place?
We have applied for him to be the DPS.
Yes. You have
We did
applied,
wait-
right?
No, we had not applied, we're just waiting for this to finish first, and then we will apply for him to be DPS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Ben Savage on behalf of the applicant.
Good morning, thank you. As some of you may or may not be aware, my name's Ben Savage. I'm Mark and Rose's son, who are the owners of the Crown in Lee, and I would like to express the following to the committee and attendees regarding the application for the variation to the premises licence. The Crown in Lee has been a tenanted public house owned by our family for over 20 years now. When the previous tenants left the pub in 2022, it was clear that the building was tired and dilapidated. As the family at the time, we had two choices. One, to sell the property, or two, turn it back into a beautiful, family-friendly pub in our local village to give the community a much-needed, vibrant hub. It's clear that from the start of this project, we've very much had the community at the heart of it. The pub, as many of you will know, is at the centre of the village, and we hope that it will provide a space for everyone to come together and enjoy freshly prepared local food and drink in a relaxed atmosphere, as well as creating local jobs. The pub has been renovated with this in mind, and many of the original features have been kept. The internal layout is not significantly different, maintaining the local pub atmosphere and charm. We appreciate and recognise that the hours listed on the variation have raised concerns for the locals, to whom we have reached out to all now individually to address these concerns. Tom has already met several of these individuals on site and has had meetings with them to address these concerns. I will now directly address these concerns further. The main concern, which was also just raised by Mr. Banner, there was the extension to Friday and Saturday nights drinking hours or opening hours. The pub will not be playing live music except on occasion, and recorded music will be the background ambience only. The pub will not also undergo any changes on a Friday and Saturday evening with regards to the layout or the ambience, and will maintain a classic country pub feel. It will be by no means will it become a late night club style venue, which several individuals have referred to. All doors and windows will be closed after 11 p.m. or speakers within the pub are permanently angled away from residential properties, and any outdoor speakers will be switched off at 10 p.m. Any noise noted to the staff will be dealt with promptly at the time. Additionally, we also plan, we are also going to stop serving customers at 1 hour before closing time, to allow a gradual phased exit of customers from the pub to minimise risk of any antisocial behaviour or loud noise coming from those customers as they leave late at night. So on a Friday and Saturday evening, we would be stopping serving alcohol at midnight. Beer at tables will also be rendered unusable by 11 p.m. each day, with our own additional consideration to close the upper tier of the garden at 9 p.m. to bring patrons away from local residences. Signage will be displayed inside and out, requesting that our patrons respect the need of residents and are quiet. To cover the concerns raised around intoxication and public nuisance, we are not a late night drinking spot or the final stop for those to continue their night. It goes without saying that we will adhere at all times to the Licensing Act of 2003, in which it is an offence to sell or allow alcohol to be sold to a person who is drunk and operate a Challenge 25 policy. All staff will be trained and certified to the minimum standard of BIIAB Level 1 within 1 month of commencing employment, and refresher training will take place internally every 6 months. There will be CCTV inside and outside to enable the staff to monitor patrons at all times and step in where required. Addressing the concerns raised regarding New Year's Eve, all of the above will also apply on this day, as it will all days of the year, and we hope that local residences can appreciate and compromise that on one night of the year we may wish to open later to celebrate New Year with the local community and our patrons. We have also put in a new car park across the road from the Crown Inn, which will address any parking concerns that were raised and reduce or stop any difficulties that would have been seen previously with the pre-existing car park. I would also like to address Mr. Banner's point that Tom is certainly currently our manager. There may be a time in future where he is not, but as a family, we trust Tom to set this venture up in the right way, and any future person that would take on this challenge would also have to continue in Tom's vein. And finally, just a final note, I'd just like to emphasise our ongoing desire to work alongside the community, as we have done, and local authority to make this venture a success for all. We feel that what we have applied for, or along with our commitments, it's more than fair to make this the vibrant hub it needs to be for the local community, along with repaying the massive investment that has gone into restoring this beautiful Grade 2 listed building. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. I'm looking at the plans that we've been presented with. Are you also planning to offer overnight accommodation as well?
Yes, we have 5 guest B&B style bedrooms, ensuite bedrooms.
Thank you. And I note also that you offered site visits to Mr. Banner has mentioned. These were taken up, were they, by many of the people you offered them to?
Yes, 4 out of 7 have already attended the site or had a visit with Tom, and the other 3 were also invited. I think we haven't heard back from this.
Committee, Councillor Davis.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. I have a question on the outside areas. You've got a tiered outside area, and you plan to close one before the other. How do you intend to manage this?
So yes, we have the top tier is a garden. It will be a grass area that will be closed at 9 p.m. We have gates up and steps from the bottom tier up into the top. Those gates will be closed, locked, and there'll be signage on them to stop that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thomas, have you anything you want to ask?
Not at the moment.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Savage. And now, Mr. Howarth, Tom Howarth.
I've got nothing to add right at this minute. Thank you.
Chair, mate, I just seek clarification on a point, please.
If you'd like to...
It's to the applicant. I just wanted to clarify the rationale or basis for the 1 o'clock finish. if that's possible, please.
Yeah, I'll answer that one. So when I started with the Savage family at the beginning of January, they'd obviously spoken about the community and it being a community hub. My biggest frustration with the UK, I've been in New Zealand for the last 13 years, was the way in which patrons are treated at closing up time. Not only is it a terrible guest experience, but also the potential damage, noise control issues by kicking out time as a traditional pub would do, where people sell right up until the last minute and then you don't get particularly long to finish your drinks before you're turfed out. What I'd said to the family was I much preferred something we did in New Zealand was a staggered closed approach where alcohol closing time doesn't change, but it allows people to finish their drinks in a manner which isn't people having to neck drinks that they've just bought or feel rushed or pressured. It's a case of allowing people to naturally leave the premise, which in turn helps obviously surrounding houses. We don't have 30 people on the street within 20 minutes of each other. And if people take their time, it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you.
No other questions then? Right. We will adjourn to discuss our response. If you would, it is now 10:25. 11 o'clock? 11. We will give you our response. If you could turn off the live stream. Thank you. Thank you. Right. This is the decision. This is a decision. The subcommittee's decision is to grant the application as amended in respect of the outside bar area, which was withdrawn by the applicant. Reasons. The subcommittee has fully considered the detailed report, application and written representations presented to the hearing in the report pack by the Senior Licensing Officer Emma Bowell, as well as the evidence presented today by representatives of the applicant Ben Savage, Claire Cunningham and Tom Howarth, and public representative Stephen Banner. The committee has taken into account all the relevant paperwork, including policy and guidance. The committee notes from the officer's report that reference to the outside bar has been withdrawn by the applicant. 2 representations were received from the responsible authorities, Trading Standards and the Licensing Authority. The conditions requested have been agreed by the applicant. In particular, the subcommittee note that agreed conditions include no admission to new customers after 23:30 hours, signage requesting customers to leave quietly, speakers within the premises shall be directed away from any residential property, no loudspeakers in the external area after 2300 hours, and a curfew, a curfew on when the outside areas can be used. 7 relevant representations were received from members of the public. The subcommittee fully recognises the concerns raised by the public representative and the reasons why the representations have been made. In particular, the subcommittee notes the concerns relating to the potential for increased noise and disturbance, nuisance, and potential for various forms of antisocial behaviour. The subcommittee acknowledges the recent engagement with the community undertaken by the applicant to try and address any concerns that members of the community have. The subcommittee has listened carefully to the representations and information supplied by the applicant. In particular, the committee notes the intention to create a family-friendly community pub venue and not a late-night club-style venue. The subcommittee notes the reasons for the proposed variation of the premises opening hours to assist with people leaving the premises in a manageable way. The subcommittee have weighed up the evidence very carefully and balanced each party's position and the concerns raised. The committee considers that the additional conditions proposed by the responsible authorities and accepted by the applicant strengthen the promotion of the licensing objectives and are proportionate. The committee notes that there is currently no designated premises supervisor in place. There will need to be a DPS in place before licensable activities can commence. The committee would strongly advise that should the premises license conditions not be complied with, that the residents inform the appropriate responsible authority, for example, the police, environmental health and licensing department, as well as other appropriate responsible authorities, so that any concerns are properly documented. We'll also add appeal information. Under Schedule 5, Paragraph 4 of the Licensing Act 2003, the applicant or a person who made relevant representations may appeal against a decision. Schedule 5, Paragraph 9 states that such an appeal must be made to the Magistrates' Court within a period of 21 days from the date that the applicant is notified in writing of the decision. Should you wish to appeal this decision, then it is recommended that you obtain your own legal advice or contact the Magistrates' Court at Bath Street, Hereford. Thank you all very much for attending, and I now close the meeting at 11:02. Thank you all. And